He's Blake. I'm Ronnie. All the good names are taken podcast. And today, Blake, channel member Hooper, suggested moving violations.
A classic. An absolute classic that just fell through the cracks for me, Ronnie. I've never seen this movie. After you sent me the link, I still hadn't seen the movie because it was missing 12 parts of it. Luckily, Tim went to Pirate Island and got it for us.
Well, we don't talk enough about Tim. We don't get right now. He's playing that Play World game. What it is with those furry animals are trying to survive. We
Smoke
don't
jumpers or some.
Hold on, I'll tell you. Let me go to our Discord that has died.
Hell divers. It's something like that.
Look, it tells me right now what he's playing. Anyway, scratch that. Tim's great. He gets us all our movies, and we don't ever just tell him thank you. I bet he feels like he's underappreciated. So, Tim, we're going to, instead of talking about moving violations, we're going to talk about how great you are for this channel. Thank you. Okay, Blake, so I'm just going to hit you with it. You love this movie. We found a full copy of this movie for you. I was perfectly happy just watching 60 minutes of the movie, and it turned out it had another 35 minutes left in it. Not a fan of this movie. Look, these are my types of movies. I know I'm talking in circles, but it comes down to one thing. John Murray, I think that's his name, right? John Murray.
Yeah, that's his name.
Yeah, he's awful. John Murray's awful, and he's doing his best Bill Murray impression throughout this movie. And I've watched this movie 4 times. I've watched it 4 times because you said the first time the reason I didn't like it is because I watched it right after the Super Bowl and my feelings were hurt.
Yeah.
You may have been right. The second time I watched it, it was a little bit better. And then I actually paid attention to it the second time. So I realized this is a movie that I had seen as a kid, specifically when the Friday the 13th horror movie character throws the acid all over the fence and they're able to break through it. I remember that part. I remember watching a movie that did that as a kid. And I also remember at the end when the 30-year-old figures out he's banging a 12-year-old, that when the girl starts switching the posters on her wall, going back, I remember I've seen this movie. I mean, I have seen this movie, but it did not leave a lasting impression. There's a good chance I saw this on USA Up All Night or something like that when I was a teenager. John Murray's bad. He is bad. And I'm going to do my best to be fair in this review. I don't want to be a total because I don't like negativity, but this was bad. And Hoops, I know you said this is one of your favorite movies. I mean, I'm glad you love this movie, dude. I mean, I'm sure I love a ton of movies that.
Yeah, I was going to say, you and I have movies that we just absolutely love.
Yeah,
that are not good. You know, we love Ernest Goes to Jail and Ernest Saves Christmas and
Police Academy and Mannequin and Meatballs 3 and Meatballs 2. I'm right here with you on these types of movies. And if it really would have been Michael J. Fox instead of John Murray, like Michael J. Fox, Blake read it earlier today, was supposed to be, that's who they wanted to be the lead in this movie, and the studio said he was too young. So all he did was go and take Eric, what's his face's spot in Back to the Future right after this. So if he'd have got this role, we still would have got what's his name? Eric Stoltz would have still been in Back to the Future, or somebody else would have took his place that wasn't Michael J. Fox, because Michael J. Fox would have been doing moving violations. I mean, there's a lot of positive things you can say about this movie. It finished second in the box office. Its first weekend, it made like $6 million. It made like $9 million total, or maybe it made like $3 million opening weekend. But it was in there with a lot of movies. I mean, it was really close to being the number 1 movie. Yeah. There's some things that should have hit that didn't hit, and it was all because of Bill Murray's brother to me. Now, Blake told me, just envision Bill Murray in that role, and this movie becomes a lot better to you. And he was right. It did. So.
Yeah. We watched a few scenes together in person, and we had some laughs. I mean, listen, this is not a good movie. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like this is great and I'm going to watch it every year, but I did have fun watching this movie. That's all I meant, is I had fun. I love 80s style comedy. I'm obsessed with it, and this has a lot of it. I mean, a lot of it is super cheese and, you roll your eyes at, but my boys got to watch me laugh out loud like Harry and the Hendersons. had a few scenes. I mean, Fred Willard saying he's going to get up in that rear end and clean it out. I love like that, you know?
Look, the beginning of it popped me when the bowling balls come out of the back of the girl's car.
Yes.
And it rolls into that group of people and they all just like fall down.
Mm-hmm.
And then it lands in the weighing as the guy's trying to buy some cantaloupe and he tells him it's $95.
It lands on that old man's
It lands on the old man's
Come sit in my lap, Sonny. And then they killed him.
And there's certain things like that were great. But I think I can see why Hoops likes this movie and why he thinks so. Because he's mentioned this a couple of times. I think it's a he. He's mentioned this a couple of times, like moving violations. If you guys get a chance, and he might if Hoops is not a channel member anymore, somebody alert him so he can come back and watch it because we did it for him. We still owe a couple of members like the program and something else to get caught up on everything. And the guy in the wheelchair wanted Clue. I don't want to over your movie, Hoops, because look, Blake is absolutely right. This is a movie that when I watched it with him, it was great. You okay, brother? And when I didn't watch it with him, I was like, what am I doing?
Well, maybe that's the evolution of this podcast. Maybe it's going to be me and you sitting on the couch watching movies together.
I know you want that, but we don't have the money for that setup yet.
I got a couch.
Okay, well then maybe we do have the money for that setup.
Yeah.
All right, let's get right to it. Neil Israel wrote this movie. And I think he might have directed this movie too. He's
when you say Israel, is this good Israel or is this Ukraine Israel?
No, it's not Ukraine Israel. It's not Hamas Israel or Hamas, whatever it's called. Hamas. I'm pretty sure if the girl from Scream had to give her opinion, she would like Neil Israel.
So Melissa McCarthy is on board with
Neil Israel.
Neil Israel. Okay.
Yeah, he wrote this movie and he co-wrote Police Academy. So that's why. That's why this movie is like Police Academy, because it was written by the guy who wrote Police Academy.
So let's talk about that. You said you get Police Academy vibes from this. If I'm being honest, I've never watched Police Academy all the way through. I know you're gonna make me watch that eventually.
Let's do it. Right now.
I've seen like bits and pieces of all of them though, which is crazy.
Seen the one where he puts the gun in the shark's face and says, "Get out of here" on the beach?
No, I hadn't seen that one. I get Stripes vibes from this.
Yeah.
Because it's a group of people, a group of knuckleheads, and he gives an encouraging speech at the end, and they have someone who's in charge of them that's kind of a dickhead, and they don't like him, and they ruin his life for the most part. So I get Stripes vibes from this, and Bill Murray's brother does have a huge part of that, and it's just a bunch of. I think the element to a good movie is there. The story to a good movie is there. It's just missing that strong lead character that you brought up in the beginning.
You're right. It's missing like a John Cusack. Somebody that's Steve Guttenberg.
Right. Brian Bosworth.
Brian Bosworth, somebody who was just like lit up the 80s. Clint Eastwood. Anybody, you put them in that role right there, they're going to be great. What was John Murray's job? He's delivering trees. I mean, is he like a landscaper?
What's it called? A nursery?
It's called Dana's Nursery. The main character is named Dana. And I think before the movie started,
what's the name?
Neil Israel told John Murray, "I need you to act like Bill Murray did in Meatballs and Stripes and Ghostbusters. And if you do all three of those, we're going to have a hit on our hands."
Yeah, if you can act just like your brother for a third of the cost, we'll be fine. That's what I got from it, Ronnie. Let's get Bill Murray's brother, who maybe we have something here. It's in his blood for half the cost, right?
Yeah, it's like getting Chris Farley's brother.
Just your top of the line VCR. What's the line from Scrooged?
My brother's the king of Christmas at the very end of it. Yeah, he's horrible. They should have got George from One Crazy Summer, but he would have been better. George would have definitely been better. I don't know which Murray that is. Joel Murray, that's who it is. Joel Murray would have been the better person to be in this movie. Joel Murray's in this movie, Blake. This movie makes $70 million, and we got moving violations 2 through 10.
Yeah, you had to convince me that this wasn't Joel Murray from One Crazy Summer. I was like, hey, man, this is going to be great. It's got him in it. And you're like, no, it's the other brother that nobody knows. And you were right. Like always, you were right. But
there were a couple of scenes where
I feel good. Na 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 na.
I'll get to that. There were a couple of scenes where Joel Murray was almost John Murray, excuse me. There were a couple of scenes where John Murray was almost tolerable. One is when the cops are screwing with him when he's standing next to a car, and he's like just sort of laughing at them, and they're like, "You can't even park right, stupid." Like he comes over and they bash the car that turns out to be Robert Conrad, who has a guest appearance. If you didn't know who the captain was, Blake, that's a guy named Robert Conrad. Apparently he was big in the 80s, and he took this role because he turned down Commandant Lassard in Police Academy, so he missed out on all that Police Academy money.
Yeah, and you got to think, since it's the same guy making it or whatever, that this is going to be just as good.
What we ought to do, Blake, me and Sleazy have already reviewed Police Academy. Me and you and Tim and Boz and Sleazy should go through and watch all the Police Academy ripoffs, like moving violations and stuff like that, to see all the crap that they made. I bet there's a ton of in it too.
I'm in.
There's certain scenes like that, and then we saw the scene together last night when the guy does the stripes scene where the cop goes, "I'm not a cop anymore. We just fight out here on the grass. Get your ass over here on the grass." And he goes, "We can go karate, we can go boxing, we can go wrestling." And John Murray's like, "Let's do arm wrestling." And then he kisses him on the lips and slams his arm down, takes off running like a little kid. So there were times when John Murray was okay. I mean, the scene where they're all in the car with the old lady driving and it stops on the railroad tracks. That was great because all the panic in the car. He was the anchor that held this movie down for me. And I understand why. If I would have been like Hoops and I would have watched this movie a billion times as a teenager, like he did, like if I was 5 to 10 years old, and this would have come across my radar in 1985, I'd love this movie because it has all the elements that I like. It's got the character that loves horror. It's got the character. It's got the old lady it's got the old lady that cusses. It's got the where's the beef lady. I mean, it's got everything that you need. But it didn't come across my radar until I'm 50. So, I mean, it's kind of hard for me to like love this movie. I probably saw it like twice my whole life. So let's get into it, Blake. What's your first good?
Just the corniness, the corniness of the movie. I mean, it starts off with him throwing an apple out, and the cops, the two main cops. Well, okay, first off, the cop gets on his bike, looks at his girlfriend cop, and says, "I just got a promotion." And she goes, "I just got my period."
By the way, I got my period.
And for me, that just set the tone of what we're about to go through. They pull over Great Value Bill Murray, and they're like, "What is this white stuff in your car?" And they stick their finger in it, and they lick it, and he goes, "Fertilizer." And they go, "Shit." And he goes, "Exactly."
What is this powder?
Fertilizer.
Shit!
Exactly.
I love it, dude. I can point out 20 other scenes where they do cheesy comedy like that, and I eat it up every time. And this is going to be the only good I have, by the way. So I'm fixing to talk for a while. Fred Willard shows up at this driving school, and everybody calls him the doctor because he owns a clinic. Turns out he's a mechanic, and the name of his mechanic shop is called The Clinic, the Auto Clinic, and everybody calls him the doctor. You got Marty McFly's sister, who is a hypochondriac. She goes, "The doctor says I'm a hypochondriac, but how do I got time to be that when I'm sick all the time?"
Comedy.
She's the one who wrecks with the bowling balls that you mentioned earlier. So she's like, "Oh, you're a doctor? Can I ask you?" You know, she goes through every. He's like, "Do you leak a lot?" And she's like, "Yeah, most of the time I leak." And he goes, "Sounds like a valve problem. I really need to check that rear end. What do you say I grease up that rear end and get in there tomorrow? I've never had a doctor talk to me this way." He goes, "You grease that rear end up real good. This is after you flush it. And then you hit the highway and you run 10 miles as fast as you can. Let me know how you feel." It shows her the next day running down the road, and you hear Fred Willard's voice in the background. "You run those 10 miles. Let me know how you feel." She said, "Like," it's just so good, dude.
This made
It is
money.
so funny, and
It made money.
we get the payoff with that too. She goes into the mechanic shop, strips down. Fred Willard is not looking at her. He's constantly being distracted. She's naked, walking around. He's like, you get up on that thing, and we'll lift you up and check it out." And he's talking. Obviously, he's talking about the car. She gets up there, ass naked, and he tells all his workers, "Y'all go check out that rear end." And she's up there with the legs spread. I love it, man. I absolutely love it.
My good and my only good is James Keach, the cop.
The cop.
I think he's brilliant in this movie. You'll know him as the ex-husband in Wildcats. He's also Stacy Keach's brother, who was in Escape from L.A., and I'm sure a bunch of other stuff that I don't remember. Oh, he was also in Body Bags. He was the guy with the hair, the alien hair.
That's him. He's obsessed with having good hair.
That's his brother. So James Keach is the brother of that guy, and he's in this movie, and he plays as close to a Jim Leahy cop as you can get without the alcohol. The beginning of the movie, he is on top of the world. He just got his promotion, and less than a day later, he's destroyed the captain's car. He's teaching a class, a traffic class at night. And he does something else. He pulls the captain off the toilet, which also gets him further down the line. Like you said, his life is ruined. He's got this eye twitch throughout the movie whenever John Murray's around. He's got a scene where he pisses himself because he's letting the old lady drive, and she lets the car go dead on the train tracks. And he's screaming, "Hit the brakes!" He pisses all over himself. He freaks out so bad that he goes and robs a convenience store to try to like pin it on John Murray. Him and the judge have this plan where they're going to like keep all these cars that are impounded and sell them and keep the money. So
yeah, the judge is the blonde from Back to School and Meatballs 3.
Sally Kellerman is her name.
And those two have a great sex scene later on in the movie that is filled with comedy.
Bondage. The old lady like breaks in. For some reason, these two have their diabolical plan written in a journal, and they send the old lady through the window to try to get the journal at the very end of the movie. And like she's rolling across them two, screwing. And it's the best thing you've ever seen in a movie. And then she grabs it and runs out of there. Also, stereotypical old ladies. Where's the beef lady and this other lady, who I think is Ekian's grandma in summer school. I think that's who she is. But anyway, saying the F word, and that's the reason the movie got a PG-13 was because the old lady got drunk and said the F word. Because John Murray does a study session, and he does the John Belushi, would the Germans have given up after they bombed Pearl Harbor or something like that, where everybody could study. But this cop is just blatantly telling all these people, you're never going to pass traffic school. Get ready to ride a bus. He sets this freaking obstacle course up, and the guy who's a puppet pedophile at the very beginning of the movie, this young guy with the curly hair is doing puppet shows in the park, which is how most serial killers got their start in the 80s. And the kids attempted murder on him. They unhooked the trailer from the car and shoved it down the hill, and he goes running through buildings and almost dies, which is a good scene in the movie too. I thought Bull from Night Court was in this movie because it's a big guy with a flat top sitting on the bus bench, and the puppet stage goes by. Another guy goes, "Was that the bus?" "No, puppet stage."
Was that the number 12? Nah, just a puppet stage.
And later on, like, he fulfills his prophecy of being a pervert because he's the one with the 12-year-old. Yeah. So doing puppet shows in the park, it leads to being a pedophile.
Just really weird for that to be in there.
Yeah, I mean, it's tossed it in there. Hey, by the way, and like she has like a sexual scene with him stealing the car and saying faster and faster early on, and you find out she's like 12. That was a weird choice there. I wouldn't have done that, but you know, I'm not in Hollywood. James Keach, best part of the movie. And that's my only good. What's your first bad, Blake?
My first bad is I was going to bring up the 15-year-old. You know, the first link you sent me, it just cut to a scene of these two in the bedroom, and the dad walks in and she's 15, and I'm like, what the hell happened here? And you know, and then I get the full version the next day, and it's she convinces him to drive this car really fast. She tells him it's her car or whatever, and it's not true. It turns out they stole the car, and she gets off on apparently just breaking the law. And
breaking the law.
In his defense, he thought she was 18, and because she said she was 18, He slept with her. And then she reveals that I've been driving since I was 12. I'm 15 years old. My dad's going to kill you. And we get the 80s comedic chase, him jumping out the window and running down the sidewalk. And then
yeah, the end of the movie is one giant chase scene because John Murray and the whole
literally a chase scene.
Yeah, they're trying to get away from James Keach, and then here comes the dude running away from the dad, and there's other people chasing them.
James Keach, who's still wearing the demolition outfit.
Bondage outfit.
Yeah.
Okay, my first bad, and I'm not going to use this one because I've warmed up to it, but my first bad I had listed on my notes right here says everything in this movie is bad. The characters suck. The jokes fall flat. John Murray is the worst Bill Murray cosplayer ever. But I'm not gonna use that one, Blake. Okay. My first bad is the opening with John Murray. First off, I see this traffic and it gives me anxiety because I'm the worst driver in the world. I hate being in and you saw me driving in Chicago. High traffic situations I'm not good at. All right. Anxiety from seeing all this freeway traffic, I guess in California or wherever it is. But they're just doing too much with John Murray at the beginning of this movie. He's got a boombox in the floorboard. He's got a harmonica like gut. He's got a harmonica strapped to his face. He's got his damn head in the steering wheel. He's singing like 5 different songs that I think that they might have tried out, but they couldn't use because they couldn't afford it. So they drowned it out with another song. I know that I should. And that's not even the song that's being playing. And then he pulls up. He gets pulled over by the cops because the apple fell out of his hand. And he gives him a fake ID that's got Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones on it. And he's got the lame joke about, oh, I'm sorry, that's my communist softball card or whatever he said. I joined just for the cheerleaders.
Oh, that's my Communist Party membership card. I just joined for the softball league. Only team in the league with cheerleaders.
He's not good. And he's not good. And I can't say it enough. He's not good. Next bad, Blake.
I don't have another bad, Ronnie.
Okay, I'll take over then. So Jennifer Tilly's in this movie,
the sex scene is my next bad. I brought it up to you in person when we watched this. They have to do this weird voiceover thing when they're in the NASA station having sex, and you can clearly see they're not saying the words that when their mouths are moving. Come here, Dana. Come here. And it's not her saying it. And then surprise, Dana Murray's doing the no. He's still doing that. I feel nice. Hey, what are we about to do here? And then they kiss, which to me completely ripped off Bill Murray and Scrooge when he's like, "Oh, what's about to happen here?" At the end when he kisses the chick or whatever. It looks like a lot of money was spent on that scene to make those two shirts have sex.
This had a little bit of backing. They said the budget was
$400 million.
Yeah, there you go. My last bad is Jennifer Tilly. I don't understand the fascination with Jennifer Tilly. I came out of this movie like very happy that a studio would cast a retarded female in a lead role like Jennifer Tilly. Is she retarded in real life, Blake? Or is this character she's playing in this movie, is that character supposed to be retarded? But maybe every character she's ever played in a movie is retarded, and it's not really her being retarded, but it's her characters.
I think she's retarded for real. When you look at her character in Johnny Be Good and Let It Ride and this, it's all the same.
Yes.
I talk really soft and slow because I'm retarded. And I do this. And I'm going to wear something that shows my because that's all I have to offer.
Edit. Yeah, she's horrible. I don't know how she's made it. I
retweeted Nick Push one time. And he brings it up about once a month.
I guess she crammed her tongue into Harvey Weinstein's ass, and that's the reason she got as many roles as she got.
That is one thing. That's another good on my movie is seeing that Weinstein logo at the beginning of this. It brought back some good memories. Big fan of Harvey Weinstein. Not his movies, just after all the other stuff.
Edit. All right, Blake, who's your ugly?
My ugly, I don't know if it's because I'm your brother or what, but I've never bought into the cute old lady. I've always hated it. Betty White's not funny to me. So I'm going with Where's the Beef lady. She's not the main old lady in this movie. The main old lady who I can't see, and I'm going to get in the wrong car. I'm going to get in the back seat and try to grab a steering wheel. This is the lady at the beginning who gets picked up by her. And then at the end, she tries to pick up this lady. She's literally in it, like you said, for 2 minutes, and she is just weird. She doesn't even look human. She don't look human to me.
Like the old lady comes up and starts hugging this guy that's carrying her bags and and then like they get in the car. Like I guess in '85 that was acceptable. I didn't understand it. I mean, that's what she said. I didn't say that. She said that.
Yeah.
Anyway, my ugly Blake is going to be my ugly is going to be the judge, Sally Kellerman. She looks like McGruff the crime dog. Every movie she's in, they like make it out like she's some kind of sex pot from back in the day. She's ugly. She was ugly when she was at Martian and Meatballs 3. She was ugly when she was Rodney Dangerfield and Back to School, a movie that me and you need to review. And she's ugly James Keach in this movie. So she's definitely the ugliest person in this movie, Blake. So I'm just going to let you know.
I mean, I can't argue with that.
Hit us in the comments. If you've seen Moving Violations, what's your good, bad, and ugly?
Ronnie can send you a link because you won't be able to find it. You're only going to find like 2 parts of it on YouTube right now. Ronnie can send you a link to the full movie if you guys want to watch it.
I can definitely send you guys a link. You guys think Hoops in the comment. He's the reason why we're watching this movie.
You're the man,
reviewing this movie. Who could have taken John Murray's spot to make this movie better? You can't say Bill Murray because obviously they couldn't afford him. You can't say Michael J. Fox because they said he was too young. Who in the 80s, in 1985, could have taken the John Murray spot that they logistically could have afforded or legitimately could have afforded, and this movie would have been better?
Okay.
Let me know in the comments. Let us know in the comments.
Oh, so this isn't between me and you? Okay.
Well, I mean, you answer real quick. Who could they add it?
Well, I'm just going to throw out some names. I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to get in the 1985 mindset. And I'm not saying cast these people, but I'm just saying these names to help me think of others. John Candy, Dan Aykroyd, John Cusack.
Couldn't afford them.
I understand that, and they wouldn't have fit in the role either. But
they could have afforded Cusack.
Jim Varney.
Dan Aykroyd would have done this in a heartbeat. He needed Coke money.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good one. Besides Bill, who is the best Murray brother, Ronnie? Is it the older one? It is. Okay.
He's got more acting. I like George from One Crazy Summer, but he didn't do enough.
That older one's in everything.
Tom Hanks could have done it. Tom Hanks wasn't huge.
Tom Hanks could have done it in 1985, Ronnie. What about some other people from the Burbs? Anybody else from the Burbs could have done it? What about the other guy, the neighbor,
the trash guy? We talking about garbage.
Paul Rubens could have done it.
No.
Okay.
He was a good theater. Cherry could have done it. Cherry Forever. Meat from Porky's. Bruce Willis in '85. He wasn't a star yet.
John Larroquette could have done it.
Yeah. Sam Malone, Ted Danson.
No, I don't think you could have got Ted Danson.
Dude,
would Woody Harrelson have done it?
I'm not
in '85.
I'm not sure he was on the scene yet.
He wasn't on the scene.
I'm not sure. He may have been. Ted Danson did It's a Fine Mess with Howie Mandel, and I think it was after '85. I think it was '86. So Ted Danson would have definitely have done this movie.
What are some movies that came out in '85, Ronnie?
Tons of them. I don't know.
Bunch of them, huh? Would Arnold Schwarzenegger have done this?
Yes.
Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell was doing used cars around this time, I think. So, yeah.
Don Cheadle's in this movie.
Yeah, we forgot to mention that Don Cheadle makes his film debut at a fast food place. Edit.
Oh, man.
'85 was great. I love it.
Okay, some guys from Major League. I know that was '89.
Tom Berenger, Charlie Sheen. That's about it. Corbin Burnson, he wouldn't have been able to pull this off. He's always looked 60.
Could a young Jerry Seinfeld have done this in '85? He was 3 years away from, 3 or 4 years away from doing Seinfeld.
No, he couldn't act.
He was mid 20s. He couldn't act. Yeah, so we're gonna go with Murray, John Murray.
We've named them all.
I was eating an apple. I dropped an apple.
We've talked about it all, Blake. We've talked about the old women. We've talked about the underage. We've talked about the puppeteers. We've talked about the Murray brother everybody hates.
What about the guy who played Mr. Belding?
Dennis Haskins.
Could he have done it?
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, I'm all in on Dennis Haskins 4 years before Saved by the Bell even got started doing this role.
You're giving me a ticket. Hey.
What are you pulling me over for? All right. Also hit us in the comments. I put out a poll on Instagram about a week ago. Do you want me and Blake to review every episode of Saved by the Bell? Would you guys be interested in that?
I'll do it. I'll do it right now.
All right, Blake.
Hopes, I had a good time watching this, but this movie does suck, brother.
Hopes, I'm glad you love this movie. Keep watching it, brother. Keep on keeping on. Thanks for supporting the channel. If you're still a member, that's great. If you're not a member still, we appreciate you for being a member, and I hope you enjoyed this review.
And I want to know what other you're watching that's similar to this. Send it my way. I'm going to check it out because I feel like you and I have the same style.
That's a good question. Hopes, give us more in the comments here of what you watched in 85 because we've really got to check that out because you seem like you're right up our alley.
Yep.
All right, Blake. Love you.
Love you, brother.